Hi and hello guys, it is Gomi here, and you know what is like the craziest experience in the world? Being homeless. Like, I feel like I feel like this like not a common experience, but it's a common experience because poverty rates and homeless rates are very high in a lot of places. But it's not like the common experience like every American out there, or not even just Americans. Like, not every single person out there can say, "Hey, I've been homeless." It's like a handful of people. But being homeless, it's like life altering, and like it changes you a lot as a person. Like, okay, so basically, me and my family we were homeless like years and years ago due to financial issues, and like I remember like prior to being homeless, my perspective on homeless people was very different compared to how it is now. Like, I used to look down on homeless people. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like, I look down on them because I'm like, what did you do to be in that situation? Like, people usually depict homeless people as, people who are on drugs, have alcohol issues, are irresponsible, this and the other. And that can apply for, a handful of them, but other homeless people are in those situations due to, mishaps in life, terrible family issues, you know, sudden um, misfortunes that happen that cause a lot of financial issues. So I think once I was in that situation, like my view on things completely changed. I no longer judge people based on their, you know, financial status. Like, I did a little bit when I was younger. Like, I kind of looked down on poor people, and I like looked up to like people who had money. I wanted to be a people. I wanted to be a person who had like lots of money. I mean, I feel like a lot of people want to be rich and stuff, but yeah. Once I was like homeless, I kind of realized, a lot of these people just have unfortunate situations, and yeah, maybe addictions and such are making the situations worse or have gotten them in that situation, but that's not a reason to really look down on them. Of course, it is poor choices that led them to that situation, or maybe it's like just, the wrong people in their lives, but nevertheless, they are people and they are suffering. And I feel like no one really deserves to go through that type of suffering. Like, luckily, my family weren't homeless to the point where we were like living in a car or on the streets. We were just like hopping and hopping from hotel, and like, there were short times where I had to like live with like other family members, but we weren't like, at the bottom line homeless where we had like no money to afford, you know some place to be, if that makes any sense. And I see like people, I don't know what the Florida Project is. I think it's a show or a movie, but like people say it's about homelessness, like living in a hotel or something. I don't know what it is, but people are like, "There's no way you're romanticizing living in a hotel." And when I tell you living in a hotel with four people, like me included, it's terrible. It is terrible. One, you have like no privacy, and two, like those like hotel rooms are okay for a night, but actively being there every day is not it. It sucked. It sucked a lot. And being homeless, like, oh my gosh, remember like barely having money for shoes. My shoes would be falling off on the school playground and stuff. Like, my freaking soul would be flapping like it's trying to chomp somebody. And it was just like so sad. And I remember like, I was getting bullied a little bit in middle school. Well, not a little bit, like a decent bit. And I remember like, they talk about like my financial status sometimes, like, oh, you're always wearing the same thing. And like, I don't know, I think that's when I kind of realized that like people really look down on poor people. Like, I didn't realize it as much because like my family has never been rich. We've always been like, lower class. But like being at like, the bottom of things, you really realize how people treat people who don't have money. And it sucked because it was like basically out of my control at that time. I was like I was in middle school, like 7th, 8th grade. So what, 13? I think you might be 12 in 7th. I forgot. But I was young. It was really out of my control. And it sucked. And then, like, besides learning to not judge people based on their financial status, I've also learned that, like, to not take basic things for granted. Like, oh my gosh, I never thought, like, getting clothes was a blessing, or getting a really good meal was a blessing. Like, being able to eat out every now and then was amazing. Or, getting to go somewhere fun and, like, getting, a really nice pair of clothes and not, some shirt from Five and Below. Like, I remember my family, like, we were at Five and Below a lot getting those, like, cheap t-shirts. And yeah, it's just like, whoa. And, like, now I'm in a position where I'm making money and I'm, like, wow. Imagine me now versus me then, barely having money for anything. Now I can buy what I'd like, and I'm working towards getting a car and all these other things. And, back then, I wouldn't have had the ability to do that. Anyways, to end off this video, I just want to say, if you've ever been homeless, or, you're just, like, really poor and, like, you're working your way out of the situation, congrats and kudos to you. And I really hope that you do well in life, because I feel like, just being homeless and seeing the very bottom line of things sucks, and it changes your perspective on things. Like, I get very scared of possibly being homeless again, and a lot of people do not have to deal with the fear of that, because a lot of people do not experience that, and a lot of people don't have the mindset or, like, perspective of, like, being that low in life, so they have, like, very different views on things. Like, I personally do not like very expensive things. I like thrifting a lot. I don't like, buying, like, really expensive nonsense, like the stupid Stanley Cup. I do not like the Stanley Cup, guys. Now, I do buy expensive nonsense from time to time, like these figurines. One of my figurines was $17. It's like this Melody figurine. Give me a second, because I love this figurine so much. Okay. See? Actually, it was like $20. But, like, I had points. Like, I had, like, reward points, and I got, like, it cheaper than that. It's really cute. That's the only, like, expensive nonsense I like. But, typically I aim for thrifting. The car I want is, like, a really old car that doesn't cost, like, a ton compared to newer market cars. Yeah, I don't mind, like, cheaper things or going with cheaper options, mainly because of, like, the stuff I've been through. I'm not trying to throw all my money in a ditch. But if you have never been, very poor or homeless, I would say it's just be very considerate of the way you view people and the way you treat people and the way you view things, and do not take things for granted. I feel like, when you are in a stable place, you tend to take a lot of things for granted. Like having decent clothing, having, being able to have your hair done. Like, my hair would be a mess for weeks upon weeks, months. Like, when I get my hair done, like, my hair would be falling off the freaking root. Having shoes that aren't falling apart, having, pants that aren't ripping at the seams, being able to get new things, having decent food, not worrying about when your next meal is going to be and such. Like, those are things you shouldn't take for granted, but you take for granted a lot in day-to-day life because it's not something that really concerns you. Yeah, and do not look down or tease people about the things they have. People will tease people for the type of phone they have, the stuff they wear and such, and you don't understand why they may have the things they have, or do the things they do, or, have to get the things they get, because maybe that's the most they can afford. So I'd say just be more considerate and understanding. But I think that's about it. Yeah. This is Gumi signing out. Bye.